Hi, today we'll be building our understanding of the MCP and the Angular MCP server. Before moving into the MCP and the Angular MCP server itself, we will try to get the context and the background why we need to look into MCP and the MCP Angular MCP server. When we have started using Claude, we have set up the Claude in a VS Code, and then we have created a Claude.md file, and we have provided certain instructions which Claude can use to write the code. But there is a problem which is inherent and like hard coded with the existing large language model. What actually happens when a model is being released for the public, it's being trained on data up to a certain point. So every training model, either it's Opus 4.8 or Sonnet or any GPT model, every model is being trained up to a certain point. And till that point of time, it do have the knowledge of Angular or other tech stack. But what actually happens post that, these Angular framework or any other tech framework keeps on like improvising. So what actually happens over a period of time, these models like provide some old practices which might be relevant 2 or 3 years back, but not be relevant at this point of time. And it might be suggesting those code practices which are not currently relevant. So you can think of it like once we tried using Claude Code, it comes up with its Angular knowledge, but that was up to a certain point. And you can think like it's a cutoff date, might be till 30th June of 2024, or might be 25 or something early 2026. What actually happens when we started using Claude Code in the VS Code and we do not have any MCP server? So what does it do? Claude uses its own language till the cutoff date. It knows to an extent, but it is not able to figure out the new things. So when it start working, so it sees like I can figure some of these things, but it's not able to figure out exact things. This is where MCP comes in. So what we are going to explore in this video, we are going to discuss MCP, the Angular MCP server, what it itself is, and how to set it up correctly. And what we are going to do we are going to do it with like real tool list and configuration straight from the official documentation. Now Claude Code already works. So as we have set up Claude Code in our VS Code, so we need to know how it actually works. What we are doing, we are providing a prompt to it. What it does, it reads the relevant files autonomously. It writes any changes directly to our files. If anything needs to be modified, it runs the terminal command. Any command which it requires to like complete a task like ngserve, npx dses, npm install, it everything it runs behind the scene, and it reads the output, fixes any error, and it iterates. When iterate is the major word over here. So iterate, what it does, iterate keep on cycling one by one. Like say if find an error, and then it go and fixes that. So always then it report what it need, and then it reports what it did. So it's already working without an MCP configuration. So we haven't said like we haven't created any MCP configuration or haven't configured any MCP server as of yet. So we are just the director. We are directing the Claude Code, and it's working as an agent. So there is nothing like any MCP server in the loop. So what does it do? MCP server, it doesn't change the loop. It improvises the quality of the Angular knowledge, and we'll be looking into that shortly. So the real problem is knowledge cutoff. Every language, as I've already discussed, is trained on data up to a fixed date. So they are like being trained on an old data set, usually from a year or two back, and Angular in recent have improvised. So what actually happens, let's say if we ask like add an input to this component for the expense category. So what does Claude Code do? It might be using the old pattern of using @ input, and what actually we want, we might be requiring a signal based input, which is based on the most recent pattern. So this is the real gap, and this is the reason MCP is going to come into the picture. What does MCP do? MCP itself acts as a bridge between the AI and the real world. So you can think of MCP as a more like bridge which connects our AI to agent or AI tool to the most real-time knowledge being available. And there are certain MCP servers available around the globe, not just for the Angular, but for others as well. And this MCP bridge is helping us connect with them. So you can quickly see like MCP itself, the model context protocol is one standard and all connected. What's the reason for having a single standard? The reason is that because this AI tools, there might be multiple AI tools and there might be multiple MCP servers providing the knowledge. So having this MCP protocol help both these parties connect easily. What does, let's say in our case, Angular is doing? Angular is going to build an MCP server and they're going to provide this support to the Claude Code. And what does Claude Code is going to do? It's just going to integrate using this MCP protocol with that MCP server, and it's communicating over JSON RPC. So any assistant like Claude Code or Codex or Cursor are using these. So this being said, we are going to see like what is MCP itself. So MCP, as we have already seen, that MCP is stands for Model Context Protocol, and it's an open standard that allows AI assistant to connect to external tools. So instead of relying solely on a stale training data, what does MCP enables? It enables real-time access to the authoritative information, or you would say the correct information. Now comes the further part, like how this MCP works, like the protocol itself actually happens. There are three roles in this connection. One is a MCP host, the AI application, or I would say VS Code, which is hosting this MCP client. So MCP host is going to be VS Code, and MCP client, which is itself like Claude Code. So Claude Code is managing the connection to the MCP server itself. Then comes the MCP server, which is the external tool, which is providing the accurate knowledge, and that is like Angular CLI MCP server. So an MCP server like expose any capabilities called tools. So you can think of tools as a certain like remote functions, which this MCP client is going to call via the MCP servers, and those tools are going to return certain data. So you can think like specific functions that agents can invoke when they need information. And one more thing, we are not going to call it on our own. So basically the agent automatically uses them whenever they require it. So they identify if they need to pull the most recent data. So they call a specific function or tool within that MCP server. Now comes the MCP ecosystem. So what is a MCP ecosystem? As I've already discussed, like MCP is a model context protocol, and it's not just related to Angular. So this like protocol connects agent to many tools. So not just Angular, it can be it will allow this AI tool to connect to a database server, either a Figma server, browse any server. So this Angular MCP server is just one of a server. So what is the Angular CLI MCP server itself is? So we have discussed two things. We have identified like what is the reason we are using this MCP, what is the limitation within a large language model, the knowledge of its model, and then comes the MCP CLI server. So MCP server, what does it do? It provides like documentation and guidance. It's acting as a bridge to the live Angular.dev documentation. So as you might be aware that all the new releases and everything is being hosted on Angular.dev. So it's acting as a bridge to that knowledge base, and the like our AI tool, which is Claude Code, Claude at this point of time is able to get hold of the most recent data from this Angular.dev using this bridge. And even there are certain tools being provided which provides the Angular best practices, and even the modern code examples being provided, which Claude Code is going to look at, and then it improvise its own code. So what is the benefit of having this Angular like server? So what actually was happening when we were not using this MCP server, still we were getting the results. There were nothing like no errors. There were no compilation errors. But what actually was happening, we were not very sure that this is going to be the most recent practices, or it might be using the old patterns. So basically the gap was the knowledge error, because Claude Code with MCP, without MCP was using a stale data, but with MCP it's using the most recent data. So what we are doing, it's going to catch these like errors very quickly, and it's going to correct them right upfront. So rather than costing a new cycle each time, so this MCP server is going to reduce these type of errors, because in case if we are not going to have this, we might be asking or reviewing the code, and then once we review, then we will be asking the Claude CLI to improvise that. So this is something this Angular MCP server is helping us, because it already knows the most recent code. So how it works? Does it do? Like, we ask the Claude Code an Angular question. Uh, what does the Claude Code do with having this MCP client? It looks for a tool on the Angular MCP server, and it directly search for the documentation rather than going to its training data. It's going to connect to that MCP server, and it's going to call a function or a tool which is called search documentation. And it's the question which we have asked for. Let's say we have asked for the signal inputs. So it's going to search the documentation for signal input. The server is going to return the queries from the Angular.dev server. And with the most recent and up-to-date data, Claude Code is going to answer these results. So this tool is itself invisible, but this is how it is improvising the quality of the results. Comes the Angular MCP server, what it actually is. So if we look at the Angular MCP server, so it was launched with Angular version 20.2, and on like August, and it reached a stable status within Angular version 21, which we are using at this point of time. Even Angular version 22 is being released, so we'll be looking into that moving forward. So what does it do? This Angular includes two type of things. Like when the CLI includes, one is the experimental model context server, enabling AI assistant in our like environment to interact with the Angular CLI. So there are two things when I talk about the tool. So these MCP server do provide, one is the like a stable tools, or I would say the functions, and the second, there are experimental tools being released in every Angular release. So with the time, it's being improvised, and then it becomes stable. So what does this? It gives user set of tools to give AI agent the right context. So moving forward, the Angular MCP server, what it actually is, again, like it is helping us become a better developer using Claude Code. What does it do? It's going to call the get best practices tool, and it's going to get the actual best practices, and it is going to list the tools and each and everything. So these tools are going to help the agent become better at its job. Now comes the actual tools like verified list. These are the like tools which are part of our like Angular MCP server. One is an AI tutor, which is launches an interactive AI powered Angular tutor. Then comes the find example. It's going to go and ask for a like relevant examples within a curated database. Then comes the best practices. So it's going to get the most recent best practices. There might be a possibility there, like if certain best practices was at any given point of time, let's say in 2023, if there are certain best practices, it might not be the case that within 2026 the same practices are being used. So this is the reason we get the most recent best practices. So with this, there is a list project tool which help Angular. Then we have an on push knowledge migration. Then we have a search documentation. So AI agent do use these functions or tools as per the need. So it's the like it's AI agent which is going to decide how it's going to use those tools. We need to confirm if it's available or not. So we'll be looking at in the like coming slides. Once we are done with the slides, I'll be moving to the VS Code to quickly see how we are able to get this. can confirm it. We can confirm using the ng command. So let me open the VS Code. I'm going to ngMCP. It's going to do. It's going to tell us that how we can configure this. So this means our CLI tool is allowing us this to start using add this configuration to our host. So this means we do have the MCP server available with us. We have set up this configuration. We need to verify if the MCP server is working or not. So what we are going to do, we are going to use two or three verification prompts to see like what MCP servers are connected and how we are going to use it. So let me go to the VS Code terminal. I'm going to start a new session of Claude Code. So you can see the prompt again. It says that we have a server. There are certain changes being required in this file. So let me just update that, and it is supposed to be this. So let's just use the MCP server, or instead of doing this, we are going to use the MCP server with Angular, and the command is going to be ngB, and our argument is going to be MCP. So let's just try running again. If it connects now or not. The Angular server is able to connect, and it's going to list all the tools. So it do have all these tools available to us. So let us try the second prompt. What we are going to ask, like load the best practices using the MCP server, then review this against the current Angular standard. So I'm going to ask that what it's going to do. The MCP tools first, allowing it to list the project for this and see. Then what it's going to do, it's going to ask the get best practices from the server, that it's going to review the file which we have asked for. So let's just wait for a while and let's see what is going to happen. It knows that we are using Angular 21. Let's scroll a bit up. It loads these practice guides and review both this, and what it just says, what already correct. So it identified that we are using the standalone component. State is being used from the store. The native controls have been used. We have used @ for if and for. Custom pipes are following proper conventions. Then, but it do have a finding. It's saying like missing change detection and should fix. What does it say? The guide states on push must be set, and it's absent. So this is one thing. The second thing, it says like dead import is there, and again the standalone true is redundant. Accessibility from this perspective, and non-functional close button, and certain things which have find. So the main thing which we need to know was that it is able to read the guideline, and now it's able to take better decisions. So let's go for the last prompt. I'm going to paste a new prompt. So we are going to ask, like, using the MCP server, search the documentation for the current recommended approach to signal input in this. So now we are specifying a very particular thing. So we are asking for the recommended approach to signal input in this. So let's see what it's going to do and what it's going to use. Previously, you might have seen it have asked for the best practices. Now it's asking for the search documentation tool. So you might be able to like follow along with me that it's using particular tools which it requires based on what we have asked for. So we are not deciding it. It's the tool itself which is deciding like what needs to be done, and how it needs to be done. So you can see it have done that. And what does it say? Current recommended approach, this, and using the input and what it's being required. So you can see that everything have been mentioned. So these are the basic prompts which we have used to like set up, rather than saying setup, to verify that MCP server is working. So with this being done, like as we have used these prompts, so let's just move forward. And try to know what actually works. Like when we were using it without the like this MCP server, what was actually happening? We asked for a specific like add a category input to the expense form, and what it was doing, it was using the previous @ input. Then we have asked it to revise. We use signal input, so instead of using @ input, it should use input. So then it fixes it. But there was one thing. One thing is that we are here to teach the Claude that do use the new thing rather than the old. And the second thing is the use of a new cycle as well as a loss of tokens. But when we are using the same with the MCP server, so what is actually happening? The Claude Code is going to call the best practice first. Then it sees what the signal input or the modern approach. And then from the very first time, it's going to use this input instead of the previous. So this is very first on the correct attempt. And it will save us not just the time, but the multiple iterations. And there might be less intervention from us to do this. And the last thing which we are going to do in this video is to improvise our claude.md file. So let me just copy this and show you in the claude.md file. Like Claude MCP server, we have mentioned that, and what it provides, we have mentioned that as well, and what it doesn't do and how to use it. So each and everything have been mentioned in the Claude. So we are improvising our claude.md as well.